Season tickets are on sale for the 2025-2026 in-print Margaret Root Brown reading series, which offers one-of-a-kind opportunities to see the world's most fascinating authors, including the brilliant Salman Rushdie and Life of Pi author Jan Martel, across 10 nights in the Houston Theater District. Subscriptions include the best seats in the house, free parking, signed books, and other perks. For more information and to buy season tickets, visit inprint.org. That's inprint.org. Y'all, Main Street is popping right now in downtown Houston. The stage is getting set for the World Cup, and there are big, bold improvements being made, especially on Main Street. The sidewalks are getting more shade and more space and more of what you love. So during this time, let's go support our Houston-owned small businesses on Main Street. From morning coffee runs and happy hour hangouts to late night vibes, these local gems are powering through construction to keep the city buzzing. So grab your crew and meet me on Main Street because an exciting transformation is underway and we are rallying to support our downtown businesses. Today on CityCast Houston, when was the last time you talked to a complete stranger in Houston? Like a really fun, memorable conversation. I bet it's been a while, and that's because it can be hard to hang out in H-Town. It's Thursday, September 4th. I'm Raheel Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. All right, I'm so excited for this conversation. I've got Regina Lankenau, who is a columnist at the Houston Chronicle. Regina, welcome in.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And I've got executive producer Laura Isensee. Laura, what's up? Welcome in.
Hey, things are pretty good. Looking for a place to hang out, though.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you said that because a few weeks back, we talked about Funplex closing, and this was this indoor theme park that I grew up going to when I lived in A-Leaf, and it was a space where I would meet people from all across Houston. In addition to that, there was a local YMCA in that area that closed down, and it just seems like there are less and less fun places for young people to hang out and adults as well.
I think the fact that Funplex, I never got the chance to go, but the fact that it's rumored to become a data center just kind of symbolizes where a lot of these places are going. And the fact that we're replacing this great sort of informal gathering place where people went on dates and would roller skate with this center that doesn't really add much to the neighborhood where it's going to be, and that just is helping fuel the social isolation that is keeping a lot of Houstonians from hanging out together. I think it's just kind of a dark sign of this issue. But at the same time, I do think there are more places than we think there might be in Houston to hang out. It's just, in true Houston fashion, I think it's just really hard to get there and it's inconvenient.
Kind of like you, Regina, I never made it to Funplex, or if I did, I was really young and I just don't remember. But Raheel, you also mentioned how there was a YMCA in A-Leaf that closed down earlier this year. And that really hit me hard because my YMCA in my neighborhood in the Greater Heights area, like that's where we go. And I just don't know what I would do without it.
Laura, I'm kind of with you on this one. Like a gym or community space, if I didn't have that, it would be really tough. But I learned about these spaces, and they're actually called third spaces. And Regina, you wrote this awesome column about this. Explain what third spaces are, because I didn't know until I read your story that there's an actual term for this.
So third places are basically informal gathering spots where you can hang out with old friends and meet new people. And ideally, the way that Ray Oldenburg, the sociologist who coined the term, envisioned it, he imagined third places as the great equalizer. So places where, it's comfortable to hang out, it's accessible. You don't necessarily have to pay anything to be there, and you can meet people of all sorts of backgrounds.
Can I share a story of how I learned about the term?
Yeah, of course.
I was doing some freelance work for the New Yorker Radio Hour, the podcast, and doing an interview with Brian Washington, who's here in Houston and a writer. And his third space is the West Alabama Ice House in Montrose. And he called it kind of the living room of Houston. And so I hung out there with him for an afternoon, and he talked about exactly that, Regina, of being able to see people who are friendly. Like maybe he's not like best friends with them, or a place to meet friends and, a beer. Like it's not that much money. Like it's just pretty relaxed. And that was kind of my first introduction to thinking about it in a formal way. And since then, I look around and yeah, it's just hard to hang out in Houston. Either you have to drive a long way or you have to pay a membership fee. I don't understand why it's so hard in Houston.
I think it really is just that lack of connectivity. There's little areas that are walkable. Like I live in the Montrose area, and I'm very lucky to have that whole strip of Westheimer filled with fun shops, thrift shops and restaurants and cafes. There's Agora, Cafe Brazil. And just walking around, you see lots of different kinds of people and you can become a regular. But I think that's the difficulty in Houston. The ideal third place should be a place where you can go each week or every day. And when there's all this friction involved of getting into a car, finding parking, paying for parking, it just doesn't really make it easy to become a regular somewhere.
It's so tough. And by the way, third spaces and third places, we'll be using both terms to explain this and some other examples of this, like the gym, your place of prayer, if you want to go there, community centers. There are so many different places. And as you mentioned, some of these hurdles, is there anything else that jumps out to y'all? Like why it's so hard to hang out here in addition to the driving, the commute, the parking?
I think maybe also just finding out about places in the first place. A few weeks ago, I went to downtown to cover the potential ban on e-scooters in downtown. And I realized how much young people find out about places through TikTok and Instagram. I mean, I've definitely found interesting spots that way, but it really does seem to be a way to kind of help them get to know their city. And I talked to a group of 18-year-olds who regularly go to Discovery Green and have a picnic in the park at night.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
Yeah, and it goes to show that people will come if they know about it and it's accessible to them. So it's also about reaching young people and older adults where they are and letting them know, hey, there's this really cool club to learn Latin dancing, or there's free yoga in the park.
Yeah, that's where I'm getting confused, is because it's easier to find your tribe now online. I'm surprised we can't hang out more, or we're not having more hangouts, right? Like for me, I am one of the rare Pakistanis who love to skateboard. Like I love skateboarding and just going on my longboard, right? And finding a community when I was younger, it's hard. Like I didn't know who to reach out to. If you didn't see somebody skating, you're not jumping on a skateboard with them. But now I can go to Instagram and put Houston skateboard, or I can go and find these parks and go hang out, or find neighborhoods that are accessible for longboarding, right? So why is this happening? Like, I thought it would be easier now to find your tribe and hang out.
I think there's something deeper going on. I mean, I do think finding out and getting the word out is difficult, and how we communicate, in some ways, it's very easy and accessible on TikTok, but then it's also very fragmented. But I think there's a level of intentionality, like of how we plan and design our communities. And part of it is the roadways, but also it's like, do we have sidewalks to walk to those places, or just communal gathering places at parks? Discovery Green, you mentioned the young people who go have their picnic. They also do it at night because guess what? It's also really hot outside.
Yes.
So that is also, I think, a limiting factor. And I'm going to say one other thing about, I think, why it's challenging in Houston is that we have such a great diversity in our city, but also our city is kind of like broken down in some different pockets, especially economic segregation. I think that's another factor of not being able to come together, because we are kind of separated and divided in some ways. So I think all of these come together. And I think there needs to be some real intentionality as to how we design streets, sidewalks, parks, make buildings look inviting, and that type of stuff.
Definitely. I think even something like Levy Park, it's technically just a few minutes away from my apartment, but I go there every week to pick up a box of veggies from a local farm. And I love going there, but I wish I could just walk there, and I can't. There's just not enough connected sidewalks, not enough safe routes that I could take, and I would love to. I think that's a big issue. There are a lot of great initiatives like, MKT Heights, the Montrose Collective, a lot of little pockets of dynamism and life. But if you can't get there or you don't feel like it's accessible to you,
Yeah.
you're not going to make the most of it,
I'm thinking about my personal journey, and I will say, like, I'm blessed that I have a lot of third spaces, whether it be going to a pickleball court, right, that Fort Bend has provided for free. So you go to a park and you're meeting new people, or if I'm going to go play basketball, or if I'm going to the gym every day, you get a chance to meet people. And then I think religious communities are also a very important space for people. If you are in one, or if you aren't, like, finding another community space, it's really important. Where are y'all's third spaces?
One is Levy Park, definitely. That's, I think, my most regular place. And just walking around Westheimer, that's another favorite. Though that's not so much, meeting new people, but you get to people watch. Another one is kind of just discovering new spots. Like yesterday, I was in Hong Kong City Mall and, got some food. Obviously, that's far out from where I am, but getting to enjoy, a lot of our ethnic grocery stores and supermarkets. I find that to be a sort of third place. And especially talking to the owners or the people working there, I always learn new things and try new foods.
I would say for me, third space is definitely the YMCA. I go there to work out. I take my kids there for swim lessons. I use the kid care. There's a great fall festival, and we just run into people who, like, we might see from school, not like best friends, but just familiar faces. And those casual conversations, I feel like, go a long way. And, secondarily, also church. That's another third space. But, Raheel, you mentioned, those places of worship, and they are important. But at the same time, a lot of people aren't religious, or they don't identify. And it's interesting because there's this trend of church-like spaces that come together.
Oh, explain that.
They may be agnostic, or they may not have a specific faith creed, but they recognize the need to come together in community and maybe are focused more around social justice.
Okay.
And they call themselves secular churches. There's one called the Houston Oasis right in Montrose, but it's because they recognize the need that we are social beings and we need to come together in these informal spaces. And I know a former friend who's since passed away, but he was so lonely after the pandemic, and he was agnostic, but he said, I think I'm going to start going to church just because I need to be with people.
Oh, and we've seen this throughout the nation, right? Like, there is an actual loneliness epidemic going on. It was actually declared by the U.S. Surgeon General as an epidemic. And I wonder how much of this contributes to that. Not having these spaces, not having a place for meeting people and just these conversations.
Definitely. I also think the pandemic definitely accelerated all of that. The boom in TikTok came out of the pandemic. And I think when we were talking about other factors that kind of prevent people from going out to these places nearby, it's also, you have all these other options that are just a lot easier, watching TV, hanging out on the couch and, doom scrolling. I think that's a big problem too. You have to overcome your own personal friction to get out there.
It's easier to do DoorDash or curbside, like I mentioned with, YMCA. Like, I'm not necessarily best friends, but I see friendly faces. And just, I think sometimes saying hello, having a short conversation, those can actually enrich our lives a lot.
Oh, big time. I'm glad you said that. Like, we have to be intentional about it as well, because even when I'm out and about, I find myself doing this. I'm on my phone and I'm looking up something, or I immediately put my headphones in when I'm working out. And I've made an effort to not put my headphones in when I work out now, and engage with people, like say hi or ask a question, even if I know the answer, right? Just to see and get out of that comfort zone of just being in my groove. I'm going to do my thing and get out. We have to be intentional as well. I think that is very important, because it's so easy to find third spaces on Instagram, right? Like, meet new people on Instagram. You can just DM them, and all of a sudden you get that hit of a conversation, but it's not the same. It is not the same.
No, and it doesn't take that same sort of commitment to the community that you're a part of. Like,
Yeah.
I visited Alabama Gardens, one of the oldest community gardens in Houston, in Third Ward. And it was just incredible the way that they were intentionally creating this community with, people young and old who came every week. But the way that they sustained it was by having a set of rules. You have to come and you have to help clean up the general garden, not just your own plot. So I think that mentality of being part of a community actually takes work, and being willing to put in that work to reap the benefits. That's something that's important to foster and kind of remind young people why that matters.
This show is brought to you by Wise, the app for international people using money around the globe. With Wise, you can send, spend, and receive up to 40 currencies with only a few simple taps, and save up to 55% compared to major banks. Plus, Wise won't add hidden fees to your transfer. Whether you're buying souvenirs with pesos in Puerto Vallarta or sending euros to tip your Coliseum tour guide, you know you're getting a fair exchange rate with no extra markups. That's what makes Wise the fast, affordable way to use your money around the globe. Wise also offers 24/7 live support, and they run over 7 million daily checks to catch and prevent fraud. So you know your money is where it's supposed to be. Be smart. Join the 15 million customers who choose Wise. Download the Wise app today or visit wise.com. Terms and conditions apply. Laura, I want to go back to something you said about just that random conversation. And I'm curious, when was that last random conversation that you had, and what was that feeling afterwards?
Oh my gosh. Well, like I said, the YMCA is kind of my third place right now. And I took my kids to a swim class after work. And right as we were leaving, someone was like, hi. And it was a family from my daughter's school, and they're in the same class, these two girls. And, they were going into soccer practice, and it was just kind of nice to see a familiar face. And it was nice for my daughter to also have that connection. And this is a family that I see around, and I would like to know them better. And there's just something kind of comforting knowing that you're not alone and that we're kind of like all in this together, as cheesy as that sounds.
How about you, Regina? When was the last random conversation?
I think it was a few days ago when I decided to go to Goodwill nearby my apartment, and that place was popping. I mean, it was full of immigrant families. I heard like 5 different languages, and a bunch of ladies were just kind of commenting on one of my finds. I found this really fun sculptural vase for $10. And a lot of them just kind of commented on having seen it and what great taste I had in that vase, and just kind of connecting over that thriftiness and trying to find good steals. I think I did feel pretty connected to the people around me because a lot of them also live nearby and often check what's new at the Goodwill.
Oh my gosh, that's the best when you see somebody with a good find and you're like, oh, that's awesome. And you just talk about it. And, I'm sure it comes up like, oh yeah, you can go here. And I saw this other piece, and you start talking about your styles. It's just like something so simple, and it inspires you, gets you going, feels good talking to strangers. And afterwards you leave going, wow, that was amazing. As we talk about solutions, I want to do this a little different. Okay. Tell me how it was growing up for you and how you can apply what you learned in your third spaces growing up to solutions now. Like, how can we make this better in Houston?
Well, I grew up in the northern suburb of Spring, and Spring is very different than how it used to be when I was there, but there just weren't a lot of places to hang out. I mean, our hangout spot was the Target parking lot. We'd grab some Chick-fil-A and we'd just kind of sit in our cars and chat and just kind of loiter. And sometimes we'd hang out in parks and other green spaces. But I do think, at least in the suburbs, you see the same issues that you see in Houston, but kind of amplified. So the difficulty of getting around freely as a teenager in a way that's safe and exciting too, having things to do and not just hanging around. I think that's a big thing that Houston has improved. There are a lot more places, like I mentioned, the MKT Heights and multi-use spaces where they're residential properties, but also commercial and cultural, libraries next to thrift shops. So I do think that's something that we could develop more, but also having a mayor that prioritizes mobility and just safety on the streets, that would also go a long way to showing the priorities of the city.
And you've actually lived in other countries.
Right.
Like, how was it there as well?
Well, in my home country in Mexico, definitely Mexico City, I think, is a great model for what to do in a place that can be hot. It's less hot than here, but definitely the nightlife is just incredible in Mexico City. You have the Zócalo, the main plaza where people can hang out and just be with their family or be on a date. And the restaurants also stay out a lot later than here in Houston. And there are just more of them. It's very dense, so it's very easy to go from one little taco spot to grab a drink at a bar right next to it. So definitely we can learn a lot from places like Mexico City that are so dynamic and full of life.
That's so cool that you got to grow up in Mexico City because it's so beautiful. And like you said, there's so much we can learn. I grew up in Southwest Houston, and I think the places for us were the neighborhood pool and the local library, partly because the library was free and the neighborhood pool was very low cost. And I had a really big family. I'm one of 6 kids, and we just couldn't afford to go a lot of places, but I loved both of those places. And so I think one solution from that is just investing in those public services of having libraries that have interesting programs and books and other offerings that have accessible hours. Same with pools and parks, and being creative with the climate that we're in, so that families and communities can access those. I remember in high school, there was a Cafe Express we would hang out at. And the best thing about the Cafe Express was that a cup of coffee was like $1.03 or like $1.25. And it was so cheap. I would pay with quarters, from my babysitting money or whatever. And we could just sit there for hours. And it was a block away from our school or so. And don't recommend starting drinking coffee when you're 17. That's probably not a good idea.
Probably not the
best. But it was a place where we could relax, that it was accessible, where we could, talk and be together and not get in trouble. And I think that affordability is part of the issue, because now you go try to get a cup of coffee and you're paying like $7 or $8.
Yeah. For me, when I was growing up, it was always the park. So there would always be a basketball court there. There'd be a playground. There'd be benches for everyone to hang out. And it always felt like people were okay with the noise that came with, 50 teenagers playing basketball and hanging out and being teenagers. And now, like when I'm on Facebook groups in my neighborhood, people complain when kids are playing outside. They're like, oh, they're so loud. It's 8:00. Why are they still dribbling a basketball in the summer? So I think we have to be cool with noise. It's okay.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's definitely something that in Mexico is much more tolerated. I mean, it's you walk around the downtown in any Mexican city and it's full of noise and music, and it's very chaotic in a beautiful way. And I do think that's something that I saw with the e-scooters too. It's the impression that there's all this chaos where there used to be silence, but at the same time, the city has always tried to bring life to downtown. So once there is life, I think it's just figuring out the balance between people who maybe want to sleep early and also the kids just wanting to have fun.
Oh my gosh, we sound so old. We're like, get off my lawn. It's like, we're not that old.
No, I want people on my lawn. I tell my daughter, she's 10 years old and she has friends who are 10, 11. And I'm like, come play at the house. Come play in our front yard. Make noise. Annoy me. It's fine. I want you to do that. Go explore the neighborhood so you can have the neighborhood as a third space as well.
Right.
Okay, y'all, before we get out of here, I want to go around and just get 2 recommendations from y'all for people who want to find these third spaces, who are listening right now, and they want to be more part of this community and they want to go meet new people. Let's give them some spaces. Laura, you go first.
Okay, so one, I'm going to recommend, there's maybe a hobby that you used to do that you've fallen off and you really miss it. go look up where you can take a class or a free class, or maybe there's a new hobby that you want to take. Sign up, because oftentimes that creates community, and that dance studio becomes a third space. Or for me, I've been taking improv. The improv theater is becoming a third space and a new community. And I think that's a great way to connect, discover something new about yourself, and find that community and build those connections. So I would think one entry point is finding your passion and a hobby and going from there.
I love that.
Kind of going off of that, one place that jumps out at me is Club Tropicana on Fondren. That place is always just incredible for people learning to do different sorts of Latin dances. And there are some pros there and people who are just learning. So I think it's a really inviting place to meet new people and become a regular. And another place that I've heard is great, I actually haven't gone, but Bohemios in the East End.
Yes, I love Bohemios. Yes.
That's like a cafe/bar, and they have motorcycle meetups and plant swaps.
Oh, wow.
They also have a lot of live performances, but that are very accessible. I love Bohemios.
Yeah, places like that with live music, I think, are also great just to hang out, people watch, chat with new people.
That's so great. I think going out to a park, whether it be Memorial Park or finding another park that's near you, there's a lot of workout equipment there. Walk without your headphones, try to engage in conversation. You have to leave your comfort zone and find people who are doing things that you want to do. And there's a lot of free options, right? Whether it be free pickleball courts, free basketball courts, just go there and see if you can find that bond, see if you can find a new friend, hang out and just be part of that community. But you just have to take that first step.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard, it's uncomfortable, but it's so much fun. It's so rewarding.
Totally.
Regina, Laura, that was so much fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Raheel. Talk to you next time.
That was Houston Chronicle columnist Regina Lankenau with executive producer Laura Isensee. You can read Regina's piece on third places with the link in our show notes, and you can check out our recommendations there as well. As you heard, community is really important to us here at CityCast Houston, and I want to invite you to join our community by becoming a CityCast Houston neighbor. For just $10 a month, you get some great perks like being invited to exclusive CityCast Houston Neighbors events, so you can meet more Houstonians who really care about our city. Become a neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. And if you're looking for a cool event or free class to check out, then subscribe to our newsletter, Hey Houston. Every day it has recs on events and happenings around town, so you can try a new hobby and meet new people. Check it out with the info in our show notes. Thanks. That will do it for today. I'm Raheel Ramzanali. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to leave your comfort zone.
Actually, the inside joke is that I took them to swim class, but I forgot the swimsuits. So we couldn't actually swim.
Oh, no.
Talk about mom stress.